exposing the cracks in the Roman Empire. How did an unstoppable force meet its end? The Roman Empire didn't fall overnight. It was a slow process, like watching a giant tree rot from the inside. First, there were political mess-ups. Emperors were getting assassinated left and right. Then, economic woes hit hard. Inflation was out of control. External pressures, barbarian invasions were the final blow. Mix in some internal corruption and a divided leadership, and you've got yourself a recipe for disaster. So why did Rome fall? A little bit of everything. History is complicated, but that's what makes it fascinating. Stay curious, history buffs. Before we dive into the fall, let's understand how Rome rose to power. From a small city-state to a sprawling empire, Rome's journey was nothing short of extraordinary. Picture this, a humble beginning on the banks of the Tiber River. Rome's early days were marked by myth and legend, think Romulus and Remus. But soon reality took over. Through clever diplomacy and fierce military conquests, Rome expanded its territory bit by bit. The Roman Republic was born, bringing with it a unique blend of governance that balanced power among the Senate, consuls, and the people. The Punic Wars against Carthage were pivotal, showcasing Rome's unyielding spirit and strategic genius. With each victory, Rome grew stronger, its influence spreading far and wide. From engineering marvels like the aqueducts to the legal innovations that still influence us today, Rome was a beacon of progress. And let's not forget the cultural impact. Art, literature, philosophy, Rome absorbed and enriched the best of the ancient world. So how did a small city-state become a mighty empire? Through resilience, innovation, and ambition. The rise of Rome is a testament to what human determination can achieve. Stay tuned, history buffs. The story of Rome is far from over. Now let's delve into one of the critical factors that led to Rome's dramatic fall: political instability. The Roman Empire was plagued by a lack of consistent leadership. Emperors were frequently assassinated, creating a turbulent and unstable political environment. Imagine a world where the highest office in the land was a death sentence, with rulers constantly looking over their shoulders. This instability weakened the central authority, making it difficult to implement long-term policies. Rome's vast territories became harder to manage, and the cracks in the empire's foundation began to show. Civil wars and power struggles became the norm, further eroding the strength of the empire. With each assassination, Rome's enemies grew bolder, sensing an opportunity to strike. The once mighty empire, a beacon of progress and resilience, was now vulnerable. Stay with us as we continue to unravel the complex web that led to the fall of Rome. The story only gets more intriguing from here. As political instability rocked the Roman Empire, financial strain was a critical piece of the puzzle that led to Rome's eventual downfall. Join us in the next scene as we explore yet another layer of this complex and captivating history. As the financial strain tightened its grip on the Roman Empire, another colossal challenge emerged: military overreach. Rome's once invincible legions found themselves stretched perilously thin, tasked with defending an empire that spanned 3 continents. The vast borders, teeming with threats from all directions, became a logistical nightmare. Imagine an empire where soldiers are constantly on the move, battling not just external enemies, but also internal dissent. The sheer scale of the Roman territories demanded an enormous military presence, one that the empire could no longer afford to maintain. The financial woes we discussed earlier meant that soldiers were often underpaid, leading to low morale and even mutinies. The legions, once a symbol of Roman might, began to falter. With resources dwindling, the empire struggled to recruit and equip new soldiers. The once formidable Roman military machine started to show cracks, unable to respond effectively to the numerous threats at its borders. Barbarian tribes, sensing Rome's vulnerability, launched relentless attacks. The Goths, Vandals, and Huns, among others, saw an opportunity to carve out their own territories from the weakening empire. The military's overextension left key regions exposed, and the empire could no longer mount a unified defense. The consequences of this overreach were devastating. Provinces that had been under Roman control for centuries began to fall. The sense of security that had once permeated the empire was replaced by fear and uncertainty. Rome's enemies grew bolder and its allies began to waver. In the end, the overextended military, coupled with the financial strain, created a perfect storm that Rome could not weather. The empire's once unassailable borders crumbled, and with them, so did the very essence of Roman power. Join us in the next scene as we delve deeper into the final moments of Rome's decline, uncovering the last pieces of this intricate historical puzzle. As the Roman Empire grappled with its internal struggles, a relentless external force was gathering momentum. Barbarian tribes, emboldened by Rome's visible weaknesses, launched an onslaught that would become the final blow to the staggering giant. The Goths, Vandals, Huns, and other tribes saw the once mighty empire as ripe for the taking. Imagine the borders of Rome, once fiercely guarded, now vulnerable and exposed. The relentless pressure from these barbarian invasions chipped away at Rome's strength piece by piece. Each attack was a hammer strike on an already cracking foundation. The Goths, under their leader Alaric, sacked Rome in 410 AD, a moment that sent shockwaves throughout the empire. This was not just a physical assault, but a symbolic one, shattering the aura of invincibility that Rome had cultivated for centuries. The Vandals, notorious for their destructive raids, crossed into Roman territories, pillaging and plundering. Their sack of Rome in 455 AD was another devastating blow, further eroding the empire's ability to recover. But perhaps the most fearsome of all were the Huns, led by the legendary Attila. His campaigns ravaged the Roman territories, spreading fear and chaos. The Huns' relentless attacks forced Rome to divert what little resources it had left, weakening its defenses even further. With each barbarian incursion, the empire's control over its provinces slipped. Regions that had been under Roman rule for centuries fell into the hands of these invading tribes. The sense of security that had once defined the empire was replaced by a pervasive fear and uncertainty. The barbarian invasions were not just military defeats, they were a psychological blow to the Roman identity. The once impenetrable borders of Rome were now open to invaders, and the empire's spirit was breaking. In the face of these relentless pressures, the Roman Empire could no longer sustain itself. The external threats, combined with internal decay, created an insurmountable challenge. The fall of Rome was not a single event, but a series of relentless pressures, both internal and external, that the empire could not withstand. Join us in the final scene as we piece together the last moments of Rome's decline, unraveling the intricate tapestry of its fall. As the Roman Empire faced relentless external pressures, another insidious force was quietly eroding its core from within. Internal corruption, like a hidden rot, undermined the very foundations of Roman governance and society. This was not a battle fought on the front lines, but a silent war waged in the halls of power. Imagine a government where officials once dedicated to the empire's prosperity now sought only personal gain. Positions of power were bought and sold, and public funds were siphoned off for private luxuries. The once efficient Roman bureaucracy became a tangled web of bribery and favoritism. Trust in leadership waned as the citizens saw their leaders grow wealthy while the empire crumbled around them. The impact of this corruption was profound. Essential services faltered, and infrastructure that once symbolized Roman ingenuity fell into disrepair. Roads, aqueducts, and public buildings, the lifeblood of the empire, were neglected. The military, too, suffered. Funds intended for defense were misappropriated, leading to poorly equipped and demoralized troops, incapable of repelling the barbarian invasions. But the damage went deeper than just the physical and military decay. The very spirit of Rome was being corroded. Civic pride and duty were replaced by cynicism and self-interest. The sense of collective identity which had once unified the vast and diverse empire was fracturing. The people of Rome no longer felt a connection to their leaders or a shared destiny. In this atmosphere of distrust and disillusionment, the empire's ability to respond to crises was severely hampered. Decisions were delayed or poorly executed as officials maneuvered for personal advantage rather than the common good. The once mighty Roman system, renowned for its governance and order, was now a shadow of its former self. Internal corruption was the empire's silent killer, eating away at its strength from within. It compounded the external threats and hastened Rome's decline. The combination of internal decay and external pressures created a perfect storm, leading to the inevitable fall of one of history's greatest empires. As we conclude our exploration of Rome's downfall, let us reflect on the lessons it offers. The story of Rome is not just a tale of ancient history, but a timeless reminder of the vulnerabilities that can bring down even the most powerful civilizations. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the echoes of history. As the internal corruption gnawed at the heart of the Roman Empire, another significant event further destabilized its structure: the division of the empire into eastern and western halves. This division, intended as a practical solution to manage the sprawling territories more effectively, inadvertently sowed seeds of disunity and administrative challenges. Imagine a vast empire, once unified under a single banner, now split into two distinct entities. The Western Roman Empire, with its capital in Rome, and the Eastern Roman Empire centered in Constantinople. While this division allowed for more localized governance, it also created a rift that weakened the overall cohesion of the empire. The two halves developed distinct political, cultural, and economic identities. The Eastern Empire, with its wealthier and more urbanized regions, began to thrive, while the Western Empire struggled with declining resources and increasing barbarian invasions. This disparity led to a growing sense of competition rather than cooperation between the two halves. Administrative challenges emerged as the coordination between the Eastern and Western empires became more complex. Policies that once applied uniformly across the empire now had to be adapted to suit the differing needs and circumstances of each half. This fragmentation of governance made it difficult to present a united front against external threats. Moreover, the division eroded the sense of a shared Roman identity. Citizens began to see themselves more as inhabitants of the Eastern or Western Empire rather than as Romans. This loss of a collective identity further weakened the internal solidarity that had once been a cornerstone of the empire's strength. The division also had profound military implications. The once unified Roman legions were now split, with each half responsible for its own defense. This separation diluted the empire's military power and made it easier for barbarian tribes to exploit the vulnerabilities of the Western Empire. In the end, while the Eastern Roman Empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire, managed to survive for centuries, the Western Roman Empire could not withstand the compounded pressures of internal corruption, external invasions, and administrative division. Its fall in 476 AD marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in European history. The division of the Roman Empire serves as a poignant reminder of how even well-intentioned decisions can have unforeseen and far-reaching consequences. It highlights the importance of unity and the challenges of maintaining cohesion in the face of adversity. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the echoes of history. As the empire faced external pressures and internal divisions, another silent yet profound transformation was taking place, one that would change the very fabric of Roman society. Shifts in cultural and social norms also played a significant role in Rome's decline. Traditional Roman values, once the bedrock of the empire's strength and unity, were being replaced by new ideals and ways of life. Imagine a society where honor, duty, and civic responsibility were pillars of daily life. These virtues, ingrained in the Roman psyche, had driven the empire to its zenith. But as the centuries passed, these values began to erode. The once revered concept of the customs of the ancestors started to lose its grip on the populace. Influx of wealth and luxury from conquered territories introduced a culture of excess and decadence. The Roman elite, once exemplars of frugality and public service, increasingly indulged in personal pleasures and extravagance. This moral decay permeated through the social strata, weakening the collective discipline and sense of duty that had been Rome's hallmark. Religious transformations also played a crucial role. The rise of Christianity, with its message of spiritual salvation and focus on the afterlife, contrasted sharply with the traditional Roman emphasis on civic duty and earthly accomplishments. While Christianity would eventually unify parts of the empire spiritually, it also created initial divisions and conflicts as it spread. Moreover, the patron-client system, a cornerstone of Roman social structure, began to collapse. This system, where patrons provided protection and financial support in exchange for loyalty and services from clients, had fostered a sense of mutual obligation and community. Its disintegration led to social fragmentation and a loss of cohesion within Roman society. The changing demographics of the empire also contributed to its cultural transformation. As the Roman Empire expanded, it absorbed a myriad of peoples and cultures. While this diversity enriched Roman society, it also diluted the traditional Roman identity. The sense of being Roman became more complex and fragmented as provincial cultures blended with Roman customs. In the urban centers, the gap between the rich and poor widened. The urban poor, increasingly marginalized, faced harsh living conditions and limited opportunities. Social unrest and uprisings became more common, further destabilizing the already fragile political landscape. In the end, the shifts in cultural and social norms eroded the very foundations of Roman society. The loss of traditional values, the rise of new religious beliefs, the collapse of social structures, and the growing social inequality all contributed to the empire's decline. The heart of Rome, once pulsating with unity and purpose, grew weaker with each passing generation. As we reflect on the fall of one of history's greatest empires, we are reminded of the complex interplay between culture, society, and power. The story of Rome's decline is not just a tale of political and military failures, but also a profound lesson in the importance of preserving the values and social norms that bind a society together. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Stay curious and keep exploring the echoes of history. As we delve deeper into the twilight of Rome, we arrive at a pivotal moment that epitomizes the empire's downfall, the sack of Rome by the Visigoths in 410 AD. This event, more than any other, symbolized the end of an era and the fall of a once great civilization. Imagine the scene. The Visigothic forces, led by their king Alaric, breached the walls of Rome. For 3 harrowing days, the city, once the heart of an invincible empire, was plundered. The streets echoed with the cries of the desperate and the clashing of steel. The grandeur of Roman architecture, the splendor of its art, and the sanctity of its temples were desecrated. The psychological impact of this sack was immense. Rome, which had stood for centuries as a beacon of power, culture, and stability, was reduced to a shadow of its former glory. For the Roman populace and the wider world, this event sent shockwaves that reverberated through history. The sack of Rome by the Visigoths wasn't just a military defeat, it was a cultural and symbolic catastrophe. It marked the definitive fall of the Western Roman Empire, a civilization that had dominated the Mediterranean world for centuries. The once mighty empire, now fragmented and weakened, would never regain its former strength. As we conclude our exploration of Rome's decline, we are reminded that the fall of great civilizations often comes not just from external invasions, but from a myriad of internal weaknesses and transformations. The sack of Rome in 410 AD stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of even the greatest of empires. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Stay curious and keep exploring the echoes of history. As the dust settled and the echoes of the Visigothic invasion faded, one might think that Rome's story ended there. But in reality, the legacy of Rome transcended its physical fall. Despite its decline, the remnants of Roman civilization continued to shape the modern world in profound ways. Rome's contributions to law laid the foundation for many legal systems we use today. The principles of Roman law, such as the rights of individuals and the concept of justice, are embedded in the legal frameworks of numerous countries. The idea of a republic, the separation of powers, and the notion of citizenship all have their origins in Roman governance. Architecturally, Rome's influence is unmistakable. The grandeur of Roman engineering, from aqueducts to amphitheaters, set standards that are still admired and emulated. Even in modern cities, the echoes of Roman design principles can be seen in government buildings, bridges, and public spaces. Moreover, Rome's cultural and intellectual heritage has been a beacon through the ages. Latin, the language of Rome, became the lingua franca of educated Europe for centuries and is the root of many modern languages. Roman literature, philosophy, and art continue to be studied and revered, providing insights into human nature and the complexities of society. So while the Western Roman Empire may have fallen, its spirit and achievements endure. The legacy of Rome is a testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity and the lasting impact of a civilization that once ruled the known world. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Stay curious and keep exploring the echoes of history.